Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tiana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the pod. Today, we are on a solo episode with me, Coach T, and I'm really excited about this one because I'm going to be talking about my journey to sobriety. I just passed 3 years sober, which is the longest I've ever gone since I started drinking alcohol and partying. And the reason I really wanted to share this aspect of my life on this pod is because when I was deciding to become sober and I was sober curious, the people who inspired me to go for it were not the ones who were in a place that I couldn't relate to, where they were like living under a bridge, homeless, totally down and out in a different way than I was. It was people who were high functioning, who just were not fulfilling the life that they were supposed to be living by their own terms and were held back by drinking and partying. So this is where I came from. And every time I've shared this aspect and been vulnerable, which is never easy to do on social, but it does connect us all. And people always reach out and say, thank you for sharing that. So I want to get into kind of my backstory. I actually started partying when I was like 13. And the reason was I used to use food as my escape. I was an emotional eater when I was like 8 years old. I became overweight really, really quickly. I actually weighed more than I do now as an adult at almost 34. And I realize now it's because every time I wanted to numb my emotions, I would just eat and eat and eat and eat and nonstop eat. And that worked as best as it could in the moment. But when I was a little bit older, I was like, oh, maybe I can try this and I can give drinking and weed a try. And then all the rest followed. But that's how it started. And I had a lot of fun, to be honest. I was like, wow, these people are so cool and so fun. And I just can escape my reality. I wasn't really thinking escape my reality in the moment. But I was like, this is great. I felt a relief from those big feelings. That's what it was. Reflecting now, having gone through the therapy, I'm like, okay, it was my way of handling that at the time. And the thing is, I want to also talk about the fact that I share this openly because people tend to look at partiers, and especially like young people who party, as, oh, they're losers, they're bottom of the barrel, they're so selfish, they have no other interest. They cast all these judgments. But I want you to have an understanding that if you never felt the urge to do these kind of things, know that this is just their escape from feeling. It's really what it comes down to, whether they're aware of it or not. And we all have escapes from feeling feelings. So I really want to highlight that we cannot cast any judgment, not just to me, but to anybody, because you could be over drinking, you could be over screen timing, you could be having adult tantrums, like whatever it is, we all have these things that we channel our emotions into. So I partied in my teens, partied in my early 20s. It was always a big, big, big part of my life. Like I really, really went hard, did some things that I'm definitely not proud of, lots of blackouts and making bad decisions and putting myself in dangerous situations and spending money I don't have. And just, I hate to say this, but really fizzling out like the person that I knew I could be. Like I always got really good grades when I was a kid and just kind of like naturally could really focus myself. But I kind of didn't really find out who I was during these years because I was so focused on partying. So I was a little bit lost there. But I did go through a period where I decided to take a break from partying and kind of went on like a health kick. This is actually what got me into fitness. When I was in my early 20s, actually, this was my late teens. I was a little bit chubby, like not overweight, but the partying and just like eating like crap and smoking and all the other things I was doing was really getting to me. So I decided I'm going to get healthy. So this involved very, very strict dieting, which is an episode for another day. But I also took a break from the drinking at that time. And then things died down for me in my early 20s. But when I went through my breakup when I was 22, 23, I came back to partying a lot. It was just my thing that I did. It was like some people emotionally eat. loved the feeling of just going out, having a night out, forgetting my troubles, laughing, having fun, borrowing happiness from the next day. Like, it was fab the day of, but it cost me the hangovers and the regret. And again, the spending money, the embarrassing myself, the photos that I didn't want to see. It cost me my fitness and my health. And the alcohol was accompanied by other things. And that was accompanied by cigarettes and compromised just everything. So anyway, I met my current husband, Brian, when I was 24. And we were both trainers, but we both really liked to party too. And we were kind of in that lifestyle together. And we weren't in this lifestyle in the sense of like, oh, like life is so hard. It was more just like, this is fun and this is what we like to do. And we like to like go out to events and we like to just live it up. Even after we had our first, like if my parents watched him for a weekend, we would totally live it up again and just party it up. And the thing is, I never was really a person to be drinking a lot like every day. It was like I had no problem not drinking for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. Well, I had not no problem. I definitely was craving alcohol, but I could do it. I could never say, okay, I'm never ever going to drink. When I drank, I really went all out. That was why I was like, I got to stop. So it was a lot less frequent when I had my kids. But the guilt that I carry is that when I did party, I really became not the kind of mom that I want to be. It was a version of myself that like I knew that I could do a lot better and nobody's perfect, but I was not showing up in the way that not only my kids didn't deserve, but that really I deserved for myself. And, you know, you could say something about someone partying when they're young and we've all had a party phase. And I think that that's so true. And a lot of us did, and that can stay in the past. But being in my 30s and having kids, I was like, this is just not the type of thing that I want to be doing. But at the same time, knowing that, I still did it. And I think this is what I really struggled with because I did a lot of self-work, like had a business, like I did personal development, like I was into like Tony Robbins, I was into vision board making. I was not one of those people that was like, I'm just going to live life and just scramble by. Like I really wanted big things for myself. I still do. I want to make good money. I want to have a financial security. I want to have the body that I love, that I'm proud of, that looks fit and amazing. And I want to inspire my kids. I want to be a great mom. I want to emotionally regulate myself. I want to be like the best person I can be. And I really felt that way. But then I still, when I would go to these situations and hang out with these people, and I'm not just blaming the people that I was hanging out with because we all have our thing and I was in that environment too. But the situations I was in, I would drink and make decisions and do stuff and get stuff that is not good and stayed up all night and partied all night and felt terrible and didn't sleep and my heart was racing and I skipped my workout and I wasted my weekend and my parents were watching my kids and it makes me have butterflies in a bad way to even talk about this, to be honest, because I would just turn on this switch and become this person. And then the weekend would wind down and I'd be like, why am I doing this? Why am I starting again? All these vision boards I'm making, I honestly, in that moment, being in that situation, doing that stuff, being in the random person's kitchen at like 7 a.m, I'd be like, I'm really no better than this. Like, this is the real me, is it? And it was this cognitive dissonance. It was like, I know I should be doing this, but I'm doing this. And it was like not knowing, why do I keep coming back to this? That was, I think, the most troubling thing for me. So where it all kind of came into my final breaking point. I think we all have a breaking point. Okay. So even if you're listening to this, maybe you want to hear my story, but you can't relate with the alcohol, the partying and whatever. Maybe it's your body. Maybe it's your health, but you're going to have a point where you're like, enough is enough. I'm not settling for this. And for me, it was New Year's Eve, 2021 going into 2022. Again, I didn't party all the time, but New Year's Eve was one of those times when I'm like, I love New Year's Eve. I loved big party nights. I just turned everything off. Kids were with my parents. I stayed up all night. I felt horrible, awful. I didn't sleep. I had a self-inflicted sickness from my hangover. Like I just felt horrible. But beyond just the physical, it was like just knowing that I made myself in this terrible state. Like that was the worst feeling. I'm the least woo person ever. Like I'm atheist. I'm not religious in any way. So I'm not woo. But let me tell you something. When I was in that moment, it felt like my higher self that was in the vision boards, the one that was like making the great money, had the great house, had the solid business and the family and the values and the body. she was looking at me and being like, what the hell are you doing? You are better than this. You are not this. We are not this. We are not the kind of person who stays up all night and parties and has a blocked nose and looks terrible and like smokes cigarettes and like, what the heck is happening? This is not a part of who we are. So since then, I'm like, I have to make this happen. I have to do it. And why am I not doing it? I just have to do the hard thing, because what was holding me back was thinking about how can I go the rest of my life without ever drinking at a wedding, without ever celebrating with a toast, without ever having a night out and laughing and like having all this fun. And I painted it in my head like this impossible thing that I just can't possibly do. And in that moment, I'm like, yes, I physically can. If I can physically do something, why am I not doing it? The only thing holding me back is my mind. Forget about it. And now I can honestly say, having come out on the other side, every milestone that I've been through has given me more confidence that I can make this a forever thing. Every time I had a birthday and didn't drink, I didn't go out. Every time I went to a wedding and stayed sober, every time that I did not drink or party when I normally would, it was never as bad as I played it out to be. And when I did it, I'm like, holy crap, I can actually do this. And now I'm always waking up early. And funny, I was always a morning person, but when I was like in this party state, I was just in this low mindset of sleeping in. And anyway, that's a story for another day. But I started getting back to my mornings and I feel freaking awesome now. I could never ever think now I'm going to drink so I can sleep in and get a crappy sleep and compromise the next day. That's not even on my radar. And I'm not sharing this to say, oh, I'm so high and mighty and I'm the best. It's to give you the confidence that if you're listening to this and taking something away, I want it to be that you can do the things that you have told yourself are not part of who you are. You can change your identity. You are not set in stone as the overweight person, the out of shape person, the person who parties their face off, the person who always yells at their kids. Like, you don't have to be that person. You can create that life, but it takes being intentional. And, you know, all the benefits, if you don't need more selling to stay sober or reduce, I've never been in better shape. I've never had such an easy time controlling my food intake, my emotions, like what I put into my mouth, the way that I train. I like looking better, quite honestly, is always a motivator for me. I've never saved so much money. Like going places and not drinking, you're like, why the heck am I going to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on alcohol at this place that is going to give me hundreds and hundreds of calories and make me feel bad for hundreds and hundreds of minutes when I could just pocket all that and maybe like, you know, have a piece of cake for all those calories. So what I want to leave you with is the 2.0 self that you're building. You have to start with that vision. And you have to ask yourself if the way that they are living, that 2.0 version of yourself, if you're living in accordance with that version of yourself right now. And chances are you're not, because you're at your 1.0 and that's okay. But how would they act? So for me, it was like my 2.0 self is firing at all cylinders. She is waking up early, getting after it, not making excuses, living life to the absolute fullest that she can be. And I can honestly say that this is something that I'm embodying. And I want that for you too, because I don't want you to think that I did this because I'm special. You can do this in any way that you want to. I've proved to myself I can change this part of my identity, and it's given me the confidence to change my identity in other areas of my life. So hopefully you got some inspo from this one. If you liked it, please shoot me a DM. Coach Tiana Daly, that's me. You can find us at Get Sculpted, but I'd love to know what you thought of this. If you can relate, if you need some support, I'm always here. And if you got value out of this, please make sure to share it with someone who you care about, who it would benefit. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this: getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.